Welcome to Writer's Digest Presents. Hosted by the editors of Writer's Digest, this monthly podcast features conversations with writing and publishing experts whose insights will help ignite your creative vision, hone your skills, build your platform, and get your work out into the world.
Hello, everyone. I'm content editor Michael Woodson, here with editor-in-chief Amy Jones, and welcome to the Writer's Digest Presents podcast. At Writer's Digest, we talk a lot about the different avenues writers can take in their publishing journeys, whether that be self-publishing or traditional publishing or a combination of the two. And a lot of times those conversations can feel binary, like you have to choose one or the other, but so often that isn't the case. Authors can have all kinds of publishing experiences, and our guest today personally knows a thing or two about both self-publishing and traditional publishing. We are so excited to have author Chips Pons on the podcast with us. If you're a longtime listener, you'll remember Chip from last year's roundtable discussion about book influencers. But today he joins us to chat about his new romance novel, Winging It With You, now available wherever books are sold. Chip, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here again.
Yeah. Why don't you start us off by telling our listeners a little bit about Winging It With You?
Yeah, Winging It With You is a gay fake dating romance set on a reality television show kind of similar to The Amazing Race. I kind of pulled from a couple different reality TV shows, so it's not just like one or the other. But it's about two people who fake something for the world and end up finding something real for themselves. And, you know, we've got Theo and Asher who traverse the globe in front of the cameras and then the crazy scenes that happen behind the cameras. And yeah, it's like one of my favorite things I've ever written.
So the reality show concept was such a fun way to explore Asher and Theo's romance. There were so many opportunities to use the forced proximity trope, which is one of my favorites. So what sparked that idea for you of using the reality show?
Yeah. So I knew right away that I wanted to do fake dating and forced proximity. Those are the two tropes, like right out of the gate, that I was like, this is what my second book is going to be about. And so when I started thinking about how could I get two strangers to be forced together, you know, in some of the most awkward and complicated of ways, it was actually, and this is actually, I'm not embarrassed to admit this at all, but
Good.
It was actually the show American Dad that gave me the idea for this book, because they have an episode that's inspired by The Amazing Race. So truthfully, I'm not like an Amazing Race super fan, but like they had a very similar episode where it was like a lot of behind the scenes moment. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, something like The Amazing Race, but focusing on what goes on behind the scenes and when the cameras aren't rolling. It's less about the competition. It's more about what these two strangers are doing in a shared hotel room in a random country, jet lagged, sleep deprived, and exhausted. So from there, the idea just kind of ran.
That is so funny. My husband Josh is in my opinion, the biggest fan of Survivor. He's never missed an episode ever in his life, and he's auditioned, I think, like 3 different times to be on it.
Wow.
And so, I know. So as I was reading this, I was like, you will love this, because it is Amazing Racy, but it also, like you said, like it has elements of all of those other shows like Fear Factor, Survivor. And it made me wonder, so you said you're not a huge Amazing Race fan. Do you watch any of them? Did you watch them in preparing to write this?
So I didn't watch it preparing to write this. I grew up watching Survivor actually with my grandparents. Like that was their show that they loved watching. And so the concept of reality TV has always been something that, or reality TV like that has always been something that's intriguing to me. I purposely didn't watch shows like this while I was writing, because I didn't want it to be an exact ripoff of the competition. And like, I hope readers can see that my fictional show, The Epic Trek, is like kind of different, while the names are like, my name is a play off of The Amazing Race. I wanted to kind of do a hodgepodge of like some of the interesting things that reality television forces people to do.
For sure.
So the opening chapter of this book made me laugh out loud.
Oh,
I took the book with me to my niece's swim meet to, because there's like hours between events, and I wanted something to entertain me. And I embarrassed myself by laughing out loud.
Yes.
So Asher and his like then boyfriend Clint have this public breakup at the airport check-in counter
Mhm.
with like lines of people watching them, and I can think of nothing more embarrassing in life. Like, that's a nightmare to me.
Mhm.
And one of the tips I often hear for writers is to keep making things harder for your characters.
Mhm.
You know, keep upping the challenges that they have to face. Was that challenging for you to
Mm.
keep like one upping yourself after an opening like that?
Honestly, yeah. My both my agent and my editor kept saying, raise the stakes, like
Hmm.
make them suffer. And like for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's really hard because I just want everything to be sunshine and rainbows. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I hate conflict, I hate drama. I just want them to have a good time and kiss. Like that's all
Mm-hmm.
I care about. But that opening, I feel like, was so pivotal because it really
Mhm.
set Asher on this trajectory of like rock bottom and kind of
Mm.
spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
And someone like Asher, who is so controlled, and like he puts himself in a box because he feels like he has to be in a
Mm.
box. Um, for him to get like publicly dumped by a man that he on some level acknowledges that he's settling for, and like kind of
Totally.
suppressing who he is for, um, it was just like this, you know, personal detonation of my life just got obliterated and I'm about to go do the craziest thing I've ever done, which is convince some random person to be my fake boyfriend on a reality television
Mhm.
show.
Something else too that I liked how you started this book was just how immediately we knew this wasn't going to be a story where Asher was heartbroken in the sense of trying to win Clint back, but that his immediate reaction to Clint's breakup is that like this feeling of wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
And part of Asher's heartbreak is personal, that he finally sort of realizes he's been bending himself into a person for someone else that isn't really him at all. And I just think that's so relatable. I I know, at least for me, like my first like big boyfriend breakup, the overwhelming feeling I had was that I didn't really know who I was because I was so enmeshed with who he was.
Yeah.
And with Asher, it really could have gone either way. Like he could have gone into the direction of like I'm going to do anything to win Clint back, or he could go
Mm-hmm.
into the like fuck you direction. And I'm just wondering, how did you go about deciding and constructing these different like personalities and relationship dynamics?
Yeah, I think like you, I've been in a relationship where I feel like I dove headfirst into someone else's
Yeah.
life and made myself be the perfect partner for that person instead of the perfect person for myself.
Yeah.
And I knew right away that I didn't want, like, I wanted this whole journey, like you just said, to be like a fuck you to Clint.
Mm.
And I wanted it to be a, I'm gonna go on your favorite show and I'm gonna kiss a hot man doing it, and like I'm gonna like ruin your life that way. Like I I pictured Asher sitting in the airport TGI Fridays, putting little headphones on and blasting Taylor Swift's Reputation, and
Hmm.
like going into his Reputation era,
Hmm.
and just like forgetting his past,
Hmm.
reminding himself who he is, and recognizing that he needed more.
Yeah.
And so when sunshiny and smiles and thick-thighed Theo comes like hustling into his life, it's like the perfect distraction for him because he's like, oh,
Hmm.
this hot man is fun, he's charming, he's sweet, like he's everything that Clint was not.
Hmm.
Um, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. And something kind of related to that, I think, is like that something that comes with Asher's feelings of wasted time is him having to believe in his own like value as a person and a partner.
Yeah.
And a lot of Winging It With You is about Asher gaining his confidence and
Mm-hmm.
finding his voice, and also him finding out how to trust another person in a big way again.
Yeah.
In the writing process, were you ever impatient for Asher to fully commit himself to Theo, or what was your experience writing all of these sort of will they won't they scenes?
Um, so going back to like writing process for me,
Mm-hmm.
I write completely out of order. And especially with this book, I bounced around the book so many times that like I really kind of set myself up for failure because the romance was like easy to write, like that
Mm.
you know, kind of instant attraction, that spark, that like, okay, I recognize that the person that I'm sharing a bed with and pretending to date is like objectively gorgeous, and I might want to
Mm-hmm.
jump their bones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was the easy part. The hard part was then kind of untangling all of that, putting it in a linear
Interesting.
order, and then building that tension and that, should I be doing this? Is this smart? I just ended something really long term. Um, but then ultimately deciding to just like lean into what feels good and like what makes sense in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Um, yeah, it was both hard and easy at the same time because these
Yeah.
characters just like made so much sense to me. Like I I think I fell in love with them before I even started writing them, and just kind of pulling the strings to kind of get them where I wanted them to be made so much sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I think part of the will they won't they was sort of helped along by all of the different traveling that they do,
Mm-hmm.
the going to
Totally.
the different places. And I think you learn so much about a person the first time you travel together,
Oh
whether
yeah,
that's, a friend or a family member or significant other. Just it's a real test of compatibility, I think. But for Asher and Theo, they have like no intention of being together
Yeah.
beyond the challenges of the reality show. So that they didn't necessarily care how the other person perceived them as a traveler.
yeah,
I guess they could be more honest with their travel personalities and quirks. So, how
absolutely.
did that help you build their relationship?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this the other day about like the behind the scenes aspect and like what that would mean for two strangers and like how you have to get real honest and
Mm-hmm.
real
Hmm.
with the person really quickly. And so they had no time for like false pretenses. They had no time for like I'm going to put my best foot forward. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
were thrown head first into this new reality for them. Um, and I love that. I love the
Yeah.
vulnerability
Hmm.
of sharing a hotel room with someone, and like the whole only one bed trope. I think like
Mm-hmm.
you can just picture it so clearly being so like for me, I'm such an insomniac. Like if I'm in a weird environment or like if I'm feeling anxious, I will just boop, be like wide
Mm-hmm.
awake all night. Um, and so I just picture Asher there lying with his hands crossed like on his chest, like this man is laying next to me, like this is so awkward, and like you just have to rip the band-aid off. And
Yeah.
that was like, as a writer, I can't think of anything more fun. Like I had so much fun writing this just because I got to torture the hell out of these two in such a big way.
Completely. Okay, I have a question in here, but I have a lot to say.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a theme in Winging It with You of miscommunication,
Mm-hmm.
not just between Asher and Theo, but independently for the characters themselves. And I'm thinking particularly Theo with his family.
Yeah.
Like the dream scenario for a gay person is, or a queer person, is that you come out and you actually get to come out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and nobody forces it on you. You get to do it in your own time, and that our families in particular are going to respect that. And something that what I found special about this book is that it sort of flips that on its head, and Theo's parents respect his experience almost to a fault, to the point where Theo reads that as disinterest in who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates this wedge between them that nobody really knows how to navigate until they're forced to.
Yeah.
And that's true too with Asher, this idea of like unfinished business within the story, whether that's Asher's breakup with Clint or Theo making peace with his family. This sense of like there's these things that are simmering that they need to figure out in order to like really achieve their happily ever after, if they achieve their happily ever after. And it points to the sort of layered emotional complexities and relationship dynamics within this story that aren't just romantic. And I was just wondering if you could touch a little bit on those relationships that you built as well.
Yeah, the family aspect was so important to me. I knew that I wanted to eventually get the boys out of the competition and
Mm-hmm.
immerse with Theo's family specifically. To me, that's the most important part of this whole book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have the romance and the sweeping, locations, and that's great and it's wonderful and it's so like pertinent to why this story exists. But at the
Mm-hmm.
center of the story, I think, is Theo, who presents himself as the sunshiny golden boy who really acts like he doesn't have a care in the world, but he's actually carrying a lot of hurt and a lot of confusion and miscommunication with his family. And I know the miscommunication trope is everyone's least favorite, and I kind of put one within another in this book. So, like, sorry, my beautiful readers, I apologize. But I feel like the miscommunication trope is the most relatable to everyone because our lives are filled with actual miscommunications every single
100%.
day. Because romanticizing communication between adults, like, almost does a disservice to honest communication.
Yeah, for sure.
And so with his family specifically, I really kind of wanted to paint a picture of kind of an opposite scenario of what I experienced personally. So nothing with my family, but I didn't get to come out on my terms when I served in the military. And my now husband, I kind of wanted to mirror the situation between Theo and his ex, where his ex chose career over him and decided to let Theo's kind of entire life implode. When I was out of in the military, my now husband chose me over our careers. And thankfully we ended up, being able to stay in and serving on our terms until we decided to leave. But it was just like a really messy situation for me. And I wanted to kind of show that, like, how important that choice was for Theo, and like that he didn't get to have it kind of sent his life on a different path. Because I could only imagine how my life would be if it was something different. And so the relationship with his parents, like, I wanted there to be this like awkward tension of like, I don't know how to talk to them because I don't know if they want to talk to me about it. So yeah, it just, it can't, I was frustrated with at times because I know that people don't like miscommunications, and I know that it can be frustrating, but it felt like the most authentic journey for Theo and his family to do that eventually with Asher by his side, because they've been like, Theo probably for the first 75% of the book had been Asher's rock, and then he kind of got to go experience his own little side quest and then have Asher be there for him.
I hear what you're saying about people don't like the miscommunication trope, but it felt like genuine miscommunication. Like, not like someone says something genuinely awful and they've somehow miscommunicated it. It's like this, it just felt like really, it felt natural coming to that point of like, we've never talked about it, literally never talked about it. So I don't know. And I'm like translating it in one way in my brain, Theo, and it means something completely different. And that just feels like what like happens with families. Well, and with what you're saying throughout this of like, I don't like conflict. I want everyone to have fun. And it felt like a really great, as you're saying that, it feels like a great marriage of like necessary conflict, but the kind of conflict that feels natural to the story itself.
Yeah.
Listeners, you'll notice that Amy is gone. We are in the middle of a Midwest spring. She lost power. So sorry, Amy.
Bye, Amy.
And I will ask the questions she was planning on asking for her. So this is from Amy. And I'm curious as well. There are so many wild and fun stops on their journey. How did you decide which countries to visit? What challenges for them to participate in? Does any of it come from your personal travel experience?
No, none of it. Actually, that's how I found some of these places, because it was all like destinations that I'd love to go to and had always wanted to experience, like the La Tomatina festival in Spain. Like, that's something that I've always dreamt of seeing and experiencing in real life, and like the whole elephant experience in Bali. I tried to find places with interesting things and facts about them, to like the world's largest, or the most ever, and then slowly started like whittling it down of like what would be most visually appealing as a reality backdrop. So yeah, it was so fun to just like kind of explore the world via the internet and learn all these things about different countries and different economies, and
Totally.
That was, I think, one of my favorite part of like the research process, especially when I had them go to the seaweed farm, kind of like learning about
Hmm.
that and how they harvested seaweed and like what that actually looked like and how it was like
For sure.
farmed in the water.
Yeah, I was wondering about, you mentioned that the competition aspect of it is secondary to like the behind the scenes
Yeah.
aspect to it. But I am curious, like, how did you come up with their, like, what they had to do?
So the honestly, that it kind of feels like a fever dream. I'm not
For
remembering
sure.
like the Ben and Jerry's challenge in the very
Hmm.
beginning of the book. I just think it's so funny that Ben and Jerry's has a flavor graveyard in Vermont. Like that's so
Yeah.
hilarious to me. And so I was thinking like, okay, how could I get them to like do something there where it's like it's a graveyard, so like maybe they resurrect a flavor, right? Like how can we get them to do that? And so like just the idea of like the pints sitting up on like a big grid where they have to do like a game of
Yeah.
match or whatever. That was just a silly little idea that came to be. And then I was actually watching. I'm gonna butcher the title, but it's one of the a recent rom com with Julia Roberts and George Clooney. It's like something in
Yes.
paradise, and they showcased seaweed farming there, and I was
Okay.
watching that movie while writing the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. How could I
Wow.
turn that into a challenge?
Yeah.
And so just like the back and forth,
Yeah.
I really wanted to find ways to both mentally and physically drain the two of them.
Hmm.
The snake challenge, I'm
Yeah.
terrified of snakes, and so I was like, how would I torture myself if I was
Totally.
terrified of snakes? And so, oh, put them in a glass container. So,
Okay, there's a part in this book when Theo is telling Asher about what specifically happened to him in the Navy
yeah.
that forced him to leave. And I won't go into too much because I don't want to spoil anything for our listeners. But it's a very even look at how these institutions display a maybe false sense of progress, while internally they still have maybe a long way to go. But Theo still clearly has so much love and respect and reverence for his time in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned you have ties to service, and I'm just curious why this was an important aspect of the book for you and how you navigated that like tightrope act of offering sort of loving criticism.
Yeah. My military chapter is probably the chapter of my life that I'm most proud of.
Hmm.
Was it the best? Absolutely not. I was outed. My entire life blew up and like whatever. But I also met my husband and I was able to do incredible things in the military. I was an Air Force photojournalist. I got to travel all over the place and tell the Air Force story through my lens and interview men and women all across the country who faced more adversity and displayed more resilience than I could ever
Hmm.
dream of. Um, and so it's easy for me to put myself in a position of I have respect for the men and women who serve. I have respect for those institutions because I understand why they exist. But at the same time, it's an exceptionally flawed
Yeah.
institution. Like it's so easy to fall into like, oh, look how much progress we've made. I mean, I don't want to go down a political rabbit hole, but like we're in 2025 and look where we are now, right?
Hmm.
So that being said, like I think you can have respect and like honor and appreciation for things
Totally.
while also calling out like a false sense of progress.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
for Theo, I wanted to really take someone who defined himself by what he does and having
Mm.
that taken away from him and having kind of like a well now what situation. Like
Yeah.
while I know he was
Hmm.
a Navy pilot and he became a commercial pilot, but like his entire identity kind of melted away outside of his like he had no say in that. And
Hmm.
while his professional and personal identity were also taken, his sexual identity was kind of revealed to the
Hmm.
world before he was ready. And I just don't. I really wanted to play with those conflicting emotions because
Yeah.
at the same time, who he is and who he loves like mean very little to why he served, but it
Hmm.
also like was a huge part of why he served and who he is. So like
Hmm.
there's a lot of contradictions there, and I really wanted to
Yeah.
make him suffer.
Yeah. It's interesting they both experienced like now what,
Hmm.
but in different, you know, as you're saying, Theo, it's for professional reasons, and for Asher, it's like this relationship I had for years. Like
Yeah.
now what? Now that it's over, just really fascinating.
I like the whole
Um,
concept of boxes, right? Like we
mhm,
end up inadvertently putting ourselves in boxes, or other people put us in boxes, and you know, um, I wanted both of their versions of their boxes to kind of be ripped open and
mhm,
also opened for them.
mhm,
And yeah, it was it was nice to see these two imperfectly perfect
mhm,
people come together and kind of
mhm.
see themselves through different lenses.
Something else I loved was reading those like universal queer experiences, or maybe just at least universal gay experiences, I should
Mm-hmm.
say. Like Asher talking about going to camp and it being a place where he was free to be totally himself and not like worry about hearing the F slur.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like a universal experience for young closeted people. Certainly
Yeah.
for me, to the point where I came to expect it in the hallways. I knew I knew my reaction to it was as important as anything, because if I revealed how I felt, that would out me. And even like conversations that orbit around intimacy among same-sex couples and the way Theo and Asher check in on each other, and like the like non-verbal communication that happens in those moments too. Can you talk a little bit about navigating those experiences in the writing process?
Yeah. All of that is my why. Like I want to put all of those things in there because at the end of the day, I'm writing gay romances for gay
Yeah.
men. I recognize that my platform is primarily women, and that's okay.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I want gay men to see themselves in these characters, and I want them to feel like seen, accepted, and celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, I contemplated keeping that line in there when Asher was talking about being at camp and using the F slur as directly as I did. And like,
I'm glad you did.
I'm glad I did too, because I feel like that's something that literally every single gay man specifically
Mm-hmm.
was bullied, about growing up. And um, I can remember vividly being called that for the first time, and
Me too.
how that like marked me,
Mm-hmm.
and how it made me feel like someone was telling me something about myself that I didn't even realize yet. And
Totally.
so, yeah, I really want my readers to see themselves in these characters. And
Mm-hmm.
whether it's just this book or the one I write next, the one after that,
Mm-hmm.
like I want them to know that like being who you are is like worthy of being in a cheesy rom-com, and like you get
Yeah.
that happily ever after, and it's like relatable and funny and tender and sexy and cute, and it truly is a universal experience, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it needs to be on page.
Speaking of your next book and your next book, you recently announced that you've signed 2 more books with Putnam.
Yeah.
Super congratulations.
Thank you.
When you post that, Amy sent me a screenshot of it and I was like, I know. Are you allowed to tell us anything about what you're working on?
Yeah. So my next novel is called Dearly Departed. It is a modern rom com, inspired by the Greek gods. And so our main character is based on Hades, who is now no longer a god, and he is a funeral director in small town New Jersey, who ends up getting like up close and personal with the sunshiny florist next door. Um, I have literally had the time of my life writing this story. This
Oh,
is so both my first book and Winging It with You, I wrote completely out of order. Um,
mhm.
this was a story. I had a whole other book ready to go. It was
Oh
being
wow.
reviewed by Putnam, and this idea literally came to me when I was in the shower getting ready for bed, and I just literally stayed up all night and
Wow.
outlined the whole thing. And I wrote the book start to finish in chronological order for the first time in less than a month. Yeah, like I don't think I slept. It's
Sure.
like literally the words like were just pouring out of me, and it was just
Wow.
such a fun, quirky, like,
Yes,
yeah,
truly quirky. Where
it's
did you come
so
up with this? I
so
mean, you just said, but
yeah.
like
I So I love like paranormal adjacent
mm-hmm.
romances, and I
So
love
does
how
Josh.
many are coming up. Like BK Borson has one called Good
Mm-hmm.
Spirits, and that's about the ghosts of Christmas past. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how can I do something fun like all these other stories? Like, what am I passionate about in a way that like I would feel justified speaking? And like the Greek gods are something that I find so fascinating about these immortal
Mm-hmm.
beings, and they all
Mm-hmm.
have their quirks and their isms, and they're so dramatic, and
Mm-hmm.
like the story, the lore and the stories and the myths about all of them. And Hades, I feel like, is so misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted him to kind of be expected to be one way, but then he's like such a soft boy, and like
Mm-hmm.
I probably should stop calling it a rom-com because I need to start putting some calm in there because it is so grief heavy, like being in the funeral home.
Wow.
Like it's just all grief, and it's just been fun, like playing.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't, I would say it's like kind of paranormal adjacent. Like there's
Totally.
definitely some elements of, paranormal concepts, but I, I just, I would love to live in this world, and I
Yeah.
love them so, so much.
I love stories like that, and I do hear what you mean. Like it's paranormal adjacent, like
Yeah.
this idea, like not even remotely the same in terms of tone, but
Yeah.
um, the movie Constantine from the early 2000s, like
Yes.
this idea of like like taking on human form for
Hmm.
whatever reason is fun
Yeah.
and is can be anything like that. That was very dark,
Hmm.
and I can sense a version of this that can be totally delightful as well.
Yeah.
What was that?
And
What's that show? There's a show too where it's the devil who is in human
Lucifer.
form. Lucifer, yes,
Yes.
and
So
that's delightful.
honestly, like Lucifer is one of my favorite shows, and
Mm,
looking back, like I feel like there's definitely vibes of like that type of energy where it's like plucking some celestial slash godlike being and putting them in a small town, and like that for me was really fun to kind of put Hades in a very small New Jersey town in the winter. So it was like
hmm
he, he's kind of crotchety and set in his ways, but he's definitely a total gooey softy. And
Yeah.
the pairing is just like so fun for me. And I will say he has like echoes of his past life.
hmm
So we'll get to see some fun little elements there.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, now that you'll be working with Putnam several times, like,
Mhm.
and you have self-published. What was different about working with a big five publisher for these projects so far
Yeah.
compared to self-publishing your first book?
The biggest difference, I think, I had to do it all on my own, right? Reaching out
Yeah.
to influencers, trying to find ways to get my book into the hands of readers
hmm
without like being annoying about it.
hmm
Um, the the change now with Putnam is that I'm surrounded by a team of book loving professionals who are masters at what they do,
hmm
and who take my ideas and take my vision and run with it, and give
hmm
me the support and the backing and the um, like leg up to really
Yeah.
kind of accomplish everything that I want to accomplish without burning myself out, because I have a
hmm
full-time job, I'm married,
hmm
like this is not something that I can devote 24/7 to. And I just feel so thankful that I have the team that I do, because between my agent, my editors at Putnam, and now my
hmm
publicist, and like everyone who's helping me get Winging It with You across the finish line,
hmm
or who has helped me get it across the finish line, and now these next books, it's just been the greatest time of my life. Like
Yeah, for sure.
they get me, they speak my language, and they've
hmm
taught me so much. Like I feel like I've grown, not just as a writer, but also just like as a human being in the book
hmm
space, and just like
hmm
I could not be more thankful.
Yeah, I would imagine it's also kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but validating, because like looking at everything they're doing for you as like a big five, it's just clear that you were also like doing such a good job promoting your book on your own, like, and that is, I think it's hard to imagine for people who haven't done it yet, that self-publishing, you're right, like when you're choosing to do it, it is a second full-time job. And for you to say like, I can't do this 7 days a week, I was like, from my point of view, you were working so hard for that book. And then so seeing a big five doing so much of what you were doing for yourself, I just wonder, like, were you like, oh, I kind of knew what I was doing?
It was definitely validating. And, we could talk about imposter syndrome forever.
Yeah, endlessly,
right? Like,
forever, yeah.
Endlessly. There's always self-doubt. There's always like, am I doing enough? Am I enough? So yeah, it was exceptionally validating to like sign with an agent, because that was like, okay, your words are good enough for that. Then it was like validating to get the book deal, then to like see that what I was doing was like in line with what they wanted, promotional wise and marketing wise. And then now, like, I'm so proud of this this thing that comes next, right? Because it's like my first experience with traditional publishing wasn't a fluke. It's like you're good enough to be here. You've got 2 books under your belt, and now you get another 2 more, and it's like, wow, like I can both be exceptionally appreciative to be here, but also like feel okay, feeling proud of myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have one final question. It's from Amy, and it's very serious. And she says, where can I get some TGI Fridays mozzarella cheese sticks? I haven't thought about them in 20 years, and there's not a restaurant near me anymore. But really, what's the story there?
Honestly, well, first of all, Amy, come to the DCA airport, because there's a TGI Fridays, and I'll get them for you. We will have a mozzarella meat cute of our own. First of all, I love mozzarella sticks. That's like my guilty pleasure.
TGI Fridays mozzarella sticks
they slap.
Very good. Yes.
I don't know exactly why this is, but every time I travel, I always see a TGI Fridays like to go in the airport, or a Chili's to go, like something like that, right?
Yep, love it.
And my husband and I often stop just for like a small bite. And when I was thinking of what would be a funny way to bring these two together, I was like, oh, obviously, let's have them in an airport terminal over something like, obviously Asher was drinking, right? But like, I wanted it to be something random, and mozzarella sticks like just seems like such a funny tradition for Theo and his co-pilot friend to have, that just seemed like the perfect meet cute, a mozzarella meet cute. I needed it.
And then it gets to be a part of their story, and then like they use it. I don't want to say too much, but like they use it as a way to like be honest with one another. I love that you're saying that, because my best friend growing up and in college, Jamie, and we took a lot of trips together, and it was just like became a stupid tradition where like if we saw a Ruby Tuesday, we had to stop and eat at Ruby Tuesday because they had the best croutons. And it's just very Midwestern. I promise I have a better palate than that. But
I love it. Hey, I love a Ruby Tuesday.
I love Ruby Tuesday. I love a TGI Fridays. It was
Give
my
me a Cheesecake
restaurant.
Factory.
Absolutely. Love that. Chip, thank you so much. It has been so fun talking to you. I'm so excited for you. And at around this time this airs, either I'll about to see you at our conference, or I'll have just seen you at our conference. So either we had a blast, or we're about to.
Yes.
Where can people find you online?
So I have a website, chippons.com, but you can usually find me at Books Over Bros on Instagram. Slide into my DMs. Let's talk about all things books, mozzarella sticks, Taylor Swift, whatever you want. I'm always available.
Thanks, Chip.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Writer's Digest Presents. Visit us online at writersdigest.com, and make sure to follow us on social media at Writer's Digest for daily updates on articles, online courses, live events, and more. See you next time.